Chris Cowlin. Fan cams. Club news. Transfer news. Match previews. Legend interviews. Spurs winning. Press conferences. Covering everything Tottenham and England.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, this is Premier League predictions. The 2024-2025 campaign is finally here. It feels like such a long time since we have been watching Premier League football, but the Premier League is back. It starts on Friday evening, Manchester United against Fulham at Old Trafford. I've got Spurs fan Craig Dearman with us. We will be predicting the scores for week one of the Premier League season. Remember, it is 2 points for a correct result and 5 points for a correct score. Craig, how are you? And are you looking forward to this brand new season?
Yeah, I'm all good. It's nice to have it back, and it seems to have been away ages, doesn't it, even though we had the Euros. So it's really looking forward to it and seeing what we can do this year.
Do you know what? First of all, before we get into predicting the score for Manchester United v Fulham on Friday evening, let's go straight in. How are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now? And where do you think Spurs will finish at the end of the season? I know there is 2 weeks still to go with the transfer window, but Spurs have got some business done. A lot of players have gone out the door. But how are you feeling, and what would you be happy with at the end of the season?
I'd be happy with. I'd be happy with a trophy. I'll be ecstatic with a trophy, to be honest with you. But I would be happy just to see progression and to see us finishing higher than we did last year. I think that's important. I'm going to be bold and say I think we're going to finish third. I think we're going to upset a lot of people. All the pundits I see have come out and put us fifth mainly. I know Lineker and Shearer and Michael Richards thought we'd finish fifth, and I think some of the other pundits have said, I think a couple have said fourth, but I'm just going to say third. Why not? Why not? I think it's all there. There's a lot of teams that are going for a rebuilding. I mean, Liverpool haven't signed anybody yet. I think, under Arne Slot, they're going to be playing a different type of football. I think Villa are going to be consumed with the Champions League, certainly in the first half of the season. I think it's there for us, but we've got to be consistent throughout the season, haven't we?
Craig, if Spurs were to finish in the top four, who would be the other three teams? Who are you tipping as champions this season?
I'd tip City to be champions. I can't see past them.
Yeah.
I think that lot down the road will probably finish second, sadly. And then it's probably one from about three teams, but I'd probably say Liverpool to finish fourth. I think us, Liverpool, City and Arsenal make up the top four.
Yeah, your top four matches mine completely. I'm not sure about the order, though. I think that if Spurs were to finish fourth at the end of the season, I think it would be a successful season. But I'm with you. I would like to see Spurs win a trophy, of course. It's been such a long time. In terms of, I know we'll get into the score lines in a minute, but in terms of teams that you think may get relegated at the end of the season. I know it's an early call. We've still got 2 weeks left of the transfer window. A ball hasn't even been kicked in the Premier League yet. But from what you've seen in the transfer window and from what you've seen of the squads that the teams have, who would you be tipping to get relegated at this stage?
I think I hate doing relegation predictions, but you've asked the question. Southampton, I don't think they're going to survive the way that I think they've got to adapt the way they play football. I don't think they've got the strength to cope with the Premier League the way they play. So I'm going to put Southampton down. I have been mulling this over, but I'm going to say Bournemouth purely because they've lost Solanke. I think they're going to struggle this season without proven goal scorer. But I think they have signed a striker today or yesterday, so I can't remember his name. But so they've obviously tried to replace him. And the other one, I'm going to say Leicester. I think it's just going to be an arse too far for them. Of course, Harry Winks there. one of our boys, but don't want him to do that well on Monday. But wish him well for the season, of course.
Craig, I completely agree again. Southampton, Leicester, Bournemouth for me at this stage. But of course, 2 weeks left of the transfer window. I think it's very, very important for those clubs to get decent signings in, perhaps with Premier League experience as well. Let's get into the first game. Manchester United v Fulham. The first game of the new season takes place on Friday evening. Emil Smith-Rowe expected to make his debut for Fulham. And of course, Manchester United managed by Erik ten Hag. They had problems last year. How do you expect this one to go? What have you made of the job that Erik ten Hag has done at Old Trafford so far?
I think he's probably flattered to deceive, to be honest. I know a few of the United fans were calling for his head, but he's won them the FA Cup, didn't he? So we'd kill for something like that. So it's funny, United. Ever since Ferguson's left, they've just he seemed to eke everything out of that team in 2013, and he left almost at the right time because they seem to have been on not a decline since then, but they've just not hit the heights that we was all used to, certainly in the 90s and noughties, and they just haven't looked like that team ever since. And they seem to throw money around, and they've spent. I'd love to know how much they've spent in the last 5-6 seasons, but you can't say that they don't back their managers by getting in big name players, and they just haven't done it. So. I think you have to say he's done a reasonable job with the tools he's got. I think there's gaping holes in that squad, but they have probably spent the most money, perhaps apart from us. I don't know how much they've spent. It's probably similar to us actually, this transfer window so far. So they're trying to sort it, but they're a funny team, United. You never know which one's going to turn up, do you?
I just think the recruitment has been so poor. They have spent a lot of money. Ten Hag has really been backed, and a brand new contract by Manchester United. I know he won the FA Cup, but I don't know. They've spent an awful lot of money. In terms of score prediction for this one, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. What are you going with?
I think United are just going to edge this 1-0.
Okay. Next up, the early kickoff on Saturday, Ipswich Town against Liverpool. Ipswich Town are playing their first Premier League game for 22 years. My God, where has that time gone? That is going to be a very difficult place to go, I think, for Liverpool. Arne Slot, of course, will take charge for the first time in the Premier League for Liverpool. Ipswich, as I said, haven't played a game in the Premier League for 22 years. That place is going to be absolutely rocking. I don't think this is going to be an easy game for Liverpool at all. Craig, what have you made of the appointment of Arne Slot? Do you think that he will follow in the footsteps of Jurgen Klopp and deliver success there at Anfield?
Well, of course, we were linked with him, weren't we? And we were quite gutted. I remember we did a podcast on managers, between managers. I can't remember in between which managers we were linked with him. There's been quite a few.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at him or looking at his work and being quite gutted we didn't get him, actually. I think he's a decent manager. But he's going to take time to rebuild parts of that Liverpool team. Salah's not getting any younger. They haven't signed anyone. Of course, they missed out on their big signing they wanted this summer. So coupled with that, they haven't done any recruitment yet, and the fact that he's rebuilding them and getting them to play the way he wants. I totally agree. I think it's going to be a tough game for Liverpool on Saturday. Score prediction. I mean, I would, in your head, you immediately think Liverpool win, don't you? But I'm actually going to go for a 1-1 on this one. I think Ipswich are going to upset a few betting slips tomorrow.
Well, do you know what? Ipswich have signed quite a few players. Smodics, Delap, Muric, Johnson, Greaves, and of course, Calvin Phillips. Really, really decent signings for them. Do you know what, Craig? I think you're going to probably be surprised by my prediction here. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Ipswich win. I think that Portman Road will be absolutely buzzing. The fans will be absolutely delighted to be back in the big time, back in the Premier League. That is going to be a fantastic game. Cannot wait to see that one, actually. Let's move on to Arsenal against Wolves. Of course, the last couple of seasons, Arsenal have have taken Manchester City right to the very end and haven't quite got over the line. Manchester City winning the Premier League again last year. They will hope to go that one step further. Do you think they've got enough? What have you made of Arteta in his role over the last couple of years? And what have you made of Wolves? Because, of course, they've just lost Pedro Neto to Chelsea.
Yeah, let's deal with that lot down the road first. I mean, they've obviously got their one big signing, Calafiori, in. Do you know what? It reminds me a bit of us a few years ago under Poch when we were challenging and just fell short. It's kind of like they've mirrored us in many ways. I still think the City are going to have too much for them. I don't think they're going to. I think they'll push them close because you have to say that Arsenal are a really good side at the moment. But and you have to say Arteta's done a great job. But he's 5 years in to this project, so you have to start asking questions if he doesn't win. You know, what is that? Is that the mentality? Is it? You can't say that he hasn't got the players in. I still think if they got a proper number 9, a real out-and-out goal scorer, I think that's probably what they're missing. The missing part of their puzzle. But you know, he like to think he knows. Well, not like to think he knows what he's doing. They get relegated, but you know what I mean. He's been there long enough. He knows his players and he knows what he wants. And the Kroenke seem to back him and give him what he wants. So yeah, but I hope they finish way down the table. But I don't think that's going to happen. As for Wolves losing Neto to Chelsea, you could say that like he's injured. more than he actually gets to play, but he's still a big player for him. I think the manager's done a cracking job because he was only appointed obviously at the beginning of last season. I think that Wolves did better than a lot of people gave them credit for, and of course we always seem to have tough games against Wolves, don't we? You know, they obviously beat us last year and always seem to push us close. So yeah, I think they're going to be a good test for Arsenal, actually, but I think Arsenal are going to have too much for them on this occasion. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win.
Yeah, unfortunately, Craig, I kind of agree with you. I think that Arsenal will be too strong for Wolves on Saturday, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 Arsenal win. Mm-hmm. Next up, Everton against Brighton at Goodison Park. What do you make of this one? Because, of course, Everton have struggled in the last couple of years. Brighton have just lost De Zerbi as well. How do you see this one going?
This has a draw written all over it for me, if I'm honest. For all the reasons you've highlighted, I think Everton tend to start off slowly any season, certainly of late. And you're right, they have struggled. And if they get hit with another points ban, you have to fear for them. As for Brighton, like you say, De Zerbi's are going to be a big loss for them. Learning new styles of play. So for that reason alone, I haven't really got much more to say on this game other than to say I think it's going to be a really boring game. I think it's going to be 1-1.
I'm going to go 1-0 Everton. I tell you what, an interesting stat this is. Only Manchester City, Arsenal and Liverpool let in fewer top-flight goals than Everton's 51 last season. So defensively, they weren't that bad at all. So I'm going to go for a clean sheet for Everton to win the game 1-0. Next up, Newcastle against Southampton. We know that Newcastle St James's Park is a very difficult place to go. Newly promoted side Southampton visit St James's Park on Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. Newcastle, Craig, they seem to drop off last season. Of course, they were in the Champions League. That seemed to derail their season with a lot of injuries, very similar to Tottenham in a way. But Southampton going to Newcastle Saturday afternoon. How do you see this one going?
I think with Newcastle essentially getting all their players back, like you say, they had a nightmare with injuries last season. Had a Nick Pope, I think, dislocated his shoulder. I think they were down to their third choice keeper at one stage. Injuries to big players at key moments in their season derailed it. Southampton obviously back in the Premier League, but I think we've found out the last few seasons Newcastle is a very, very difficult place to go. So I think Newcastle are going to win this 2-0.
2-0. I'm going to go for 3-1. and I'm going to give you another interesting stat here, Craig, on this game. Newcastle United have won all 5 matches against Southampton under boss Eddie Howe, most recently by 3-1 in the Premier League at St James's Park in April 2023. So I'm going to go for 3-1 yet again. Next up, Nottingham Forest against Bournemouth. Of course, Nuno Espirito Santo, boss of Forest these days. This one to be played at the City Ground, Saturday, 3 p.m. Forest, Bournemouth. How do you see this one going?
Okay, this is a tough one to predict, isn't it? I'm going to go for a 1-0 Forest win. I think they're just going to edge this. I can't see it being the best game of all time, but with Bournemouth, as we've said earlier, losing Solanke, I think they're going to struggle for a little while, certainly up front in attack. I think obviously they're going to play the high press Bournemouth, but I think Forest are just going to have too much, especially considering they're at home as well. So 1-0 Forest.
Craig, I'm going to go for a boring 0-0 draw on the opening weekend of the season. Nottingham Forest 0, Bournemouth 0. Now, the late kickoff on Saturday at the London Stadium, West Ham United take on Aston Villa. Aston Villa have had a good summer in terms of their recruitment. They have done extremely well under Emery last year. Of course, they will be playing Champions League football. West Ham United, it is fair to say, they have signed a number of players. Lopetegui has, of course, taken over their former Wolves boss. They mean business. Both of these teams mean business in the transfer window, and it'd be interesting to see how they finish the transfer window as well in the next couple of weeks. But both teams have been very active. How do you see this one going? This should be an entertaining game.
Yeah, I think it will be. West Ham have really been busy, like you say. They've really obviously done some smart business. Quite surprised with the amount of players they've brought in. And the style of football they're going to be playing is going to be a lot different than under David Moyes. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see how they do. I think they're going to be a lot more of a tougher opposition next season. We always seem to have games with them. They seem to rage their game against us more than anybody, don't they? I'm going to go actually for a 2-1 West Ham win on this one. I think, Chris. Yeah, might surprise you that, but I think London Stadium is going to be a really tough place to go this season. 2-1 West Ham.
Well, after you've given me that prediction, I'm going to give you this stat here. The Hammers have lost their opening Premier League fixture 15 times, more than any other side.
Yeah, that's the change. That can't keep happening, can it?
I'm going to go 1-1. I think that Aston Villa, they should be one of the teams to watch again under Emery. And as I say, they've had a good transfer window. So I expect them to pick up a point at least at West Ham. Let's go into Sunday's fixtures. Brentford against Crystal Palace. Of course, Ivan Toney is still a Brentford player. It was expected by many that Ivan Toney would go out the door in this summer transfer window, but the Premier League games are now just upon us. Ivan Toney will be in a Brentford shirt come Sunday afternoon against Crystal Palace. Palace, of course, still have Eze. Elise has gone, but Eze is still at the club. The 5 p.m. deadline of anyone matching his release clause on Friday, of course, has now passed. It now looks like he will be staying at Selhurst Park. Brentford against Crystal Palace. Craig, how do you see this one going?
Again, I think this is a tough one to predict with any certainty at all. Not that there is any games like that in the Premier League. I think losing Elise is going to be a big loss, obviously, for Palace, and they'll be pleased. Obviously, they're holding on to Eze at the moment. It certainly looks like that. I am going to go, and as you say, Brentford holding on to Toney is going to be big for them, and Bremo is a cracking player, I think, as well. I think it's going to be 1-1. I'm going to go 1-1, Chris, on this one.
God, we're normally very similar on these score predictions. We're very different today. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Palace win, actually, Craig, because I think that Oliver Glasner has done a fantastic job. I know he's only been there for a short while, but he's done a great job since he's come in, and I expect that work to continue. And I don't know, with the situation of Ivan Toney, do you think that he will be sold before the the transfer window ends, or do you think he will remain at Brentford and perhaps leave in January to get any form of money or even a free transfer at the end of the season?
You'd have to think Brentford would want to sell him in this window, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know, to get a bit of money in for him. It's weird that a lot of clubs seem to be swerving him, though. You know, we were hot for a while on him, and that all died down, and a few other clubs that are interested seem to have just turned their interests elsewhere. So yeah, it's probably a difficult one for Brentford because the owners will want the money, the fans will want him to stay. I think if a decent enough offer comes in for him, then they'll have to look at it and sell him. But do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if somebody comes in during that last week, and it could still be Tottenham. You just don't know, do you? You know, if they put in a cheeky bid of 30 million, and the club think, well, we at least we get some money for him, and he goes. So it's an interesting one, but they're going to want to hold on to him, aren't they?
I don't think it will be Tottenham.
No, I don't.
Next up, Chelsea against the champions Manchester City. Of course, Maresca has taken over at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea are without captain Reece James, who is suspended. Pedro Neto, Dewsbury Hall are among the horde of new faces at Stamford Bridge. Of course, Chelsea these days, I tell you, Craig, I don't think I could name half their squad because it just keeps changing, you know, week by week, month by month. It is just crazy there at Stamford Bridge. Manchester City will be without Rodri, which will be a huge loss for them. And Pep Guardiola has just confirmed that Oscar Bob will be out for 3 to 4 months. How do you see this one going? You've already said, and I've already said, that we both feel that Manchester City will be champions again. They normally get off to a good start. They normally finish the season extremely well as well. Chelsea, what do you make of Chelsea? What do you make of their new managerial appointment? And how do you think both teams will fare on Sunday afternoon?
I think whoever's in charge of Chelsea, you must be tearing your hair out at some point because they just keep bringing in players after player after player. They must have a squad of about 80 people. I just think it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how you can manage a squad that size. I still, you know, I think you need a smaller squad to create that sort of family atmosphere where they're all fighting for each other, and you just don't find that with Chelsea. They just seem to be a load of individuals.
Yeah.
Poch did get them playing a bit better towards the end of the season, and then of course he got let go. So it's just a basket case of a club sometimes, Chelsea. I think City personally are going to have too much for Chelsea. I think they're probably going to win. I'm going to go 2-1 City.
2-1. I'm going to go 2-0 City. Chelsea are winless in 9 meetings in all competitions since their 1-0 victory in the Champions League final back in 2021, drawing 2 and losing 7. Finally, of match round 1, Leicester City take on Tottenham Hotspur. Of course, Leicester City are back in the Premier League. Spurs, of course, this is the second season under Ange Postecoglou. Leicester will be without Jamie Vardy for a little while, and Daka will be out for a few months, according to manager Steve Cooper. Yves Bissouma, of course, is suspended for this game after the incident. Ange Postecoglou suspended him for this match. Craig, of course, we're big Spurs fans. We're on the Spurs Chat podcast. This is the game that we are all looking forward to most out of match week 1 in the Premier League. This fixture has produced 128 goals in 34 Premier League meetings. It is the highest average goals per game, 3.76 of all Premier League fixtures to have played more than 20 times. This is normally a fantastic fixture. It is normally full of goals. I'm going to go straight in there, and I'm going to say that I think that Spurs will win this game 3-2. I think there will be goals. I think it will be very entertaining. But how important is it for you as a Spurs fan that we get off to a winning start? And of course, we have Dominic Solanke up front, fully expected to make his debut. Archie Gray, he could be making his debut in the number 6 role. Of course, Basuma's out. You looking forward to this game? Do you feel nervous? How are you feeling?
Just really looking forward to seeing us play, to be honest with you. And no, not nervous at all. You put the kiss of death on it by giving all those goal stats. It's going to be 0-0 now, isn't it? You just know it.
It's never 0-0 in these games.
It's not. No, I mean, I remember when we used to play at Filbert Street. I remember Emil Heskey scoring goals against us. So yeah, like most sides, I think I've come on here and said they're a bit of a bogey side for Tottenham. I think I've said that about every Premier League team to ever exist. I think we've certainly had our bogey teams throughout the years. But you're right. The last few times I remember Gareth Bale scoring a hat trick. Was it? I think he got, didn't he? Or certainly got a couple of goals up there. And Bergwijn's obviously last minute goal as well. I'll remember that. I think Spurs are going to win, and I think we're going to win 3-1, but we'll concede first, and it will probably be Harry Winks that scores. But I think we're going to come out 3-1 winners.
Are you looking forward to seeing Harry Winks again?
Yeah. And he's a Tottenham lad, isn't he? He just wasn't the right fit. It was time for him to move on, and obviously went down to Leicester, dropped down the league. Apparently played very well. He's an intrinsic part of their squad and their team, and good luck to him. He's back in the Premier League, so I'm sure he's looking forward to playing Tottenham on his first game back in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. Spurs have lost just one of their past 8 opening matches, winning 5 and drawing 2. A 1-0 defeat by Everton in 2020. And Ange Postecoglou's side, alongside Arsenal and Manchester City, took maximum points from the 3 promoted sides last term. Craig, thank you so much for your... did you give me a score prediction for the Leicester game?
3-1 Tottenham, yeah.
3-1 Tottenham. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great weekend. I'm certainly looking forward to the first weekend of the brand new season. Where can people find you on social media, and what are you up to at the moment? What will you be doing over the weekend?
Playing golf tomorrow, and then just chilling the rest of it, waiting for Tottenham. Got my son waving at me, saying we're getting up ridiculously early to play golf tomorrow. And then just watch, be just watching football, and looking forward to Monday at Dearman9 on X if you want to follow me. Yeah.
Well, you'll be on the podcast straight after the Leicester game, so I look forward to seeing you then. Enjoy your weekend, and thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. Remember that these episodes are available on YouTube, and they are also available on all audio platforms. So thank you so much for your incredible support, as always. Enjoy your weekend, and hopefully Spurs can pick up the first 3 points of the Premier League campaign on Monday evening. Come on, you Spurs.